The first time I got drunk, I got lost. I went to a jazz festival in the country, and I woke up 2 days later, and the thing was over. My friends had gone. I had crapped myself. I puked all over myself, and I had no money. And I thought, what happened here? I had a hell of a time, and I thought, you know, I can't wait to do this again.
You thought you had a hell of a time, right?
Yeah, that's, see, the difference in me and somebody who doesn't qualify as an addict.
When did you know that it had you?
I think I knew for quite a long time. But that thing about denial, the ability to lie to ourselves as human beings, was very strong in me. So I just shove that information.
Were you lonely then?
Oh, yeah. I think I've had loneliness play a part in my life all the way through.
The roots of that loneliness can be traced back to the small English village of Ripley where Clapton grew up. His mother was only 16 and unmarried when her son was born. Clapton would never meet his father. When he was less than a year old, his mother left him with his grandparents, who he grew up believing were his parents. Clapton wouldn't learn the truth until he was 9, when his mother returned for a visit.
I made initially a plea to her to be accepted as her son, and she said, I think in a great deal of pain, perhaps we ought to leave it as it is. And then I got angry. I really didn't know what the hell was going on.
How'd you work that out?
I didn't. What I did was I found an alternative system of existence.
And for Clapton, part of that was developing a love for music, specifically the black music of America's Mississippi Delta, the blues.
Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself.
And it was so primal, the way I responded to that, that I just bonded immediately and began that journey.
How old were you when you got your first guitar?
13. I got my grandmother to buy it on what we call the Never Never, which is a hire purchase system.
What's the
You
Never
put
Never?
no money down. Well, you know, money down. It's like money. You put a deposit down and then you pay for this thing over like a 5-year period.
Long period of time.
Yeah.
Clapton taught himself to play by listening to records.
My favorite one was The Best of Muddy Waters. And I remember playing along with it, having this guitar, not plugged in because I didn't have an amplifier, and making the shape of, the same shape as Muddy on a song called Honeybee, where I could hit it and it sounded exactly like the record. It sounded like I was in stereo with the record. And that was it. I cracked it then. I cracked it. I knew I could play.
She's a witch of trouble in electric blue.
And play he did. By 1968, Clapton had hooked up with Jeff Beck and Ginger Baker to form a band called Cream. It was a huge international success.
Strange brew, killing what's inside of you.
At this point, you were being recognized as the greatest player of the blues guitar in Britain. People were writing graffiti, Clapton is God.
Yeah.
When you saw that, what'd you think?
I was disgusted and pleased at the same time. I am an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. So I like the attention, and I don't like the attention.
But the more attention, the more success, the more he retreated into the world of drugs and alcohol.
I couldn't get through a day without doing something to alter my consciousness.
And it started with heroin, the addiction.
It started with sugar, Ed.
Sugar?
Oh, yeah. When I was 5, 6 years old, I was cramming sugar down my throat as fast as I could get it down. Sweets, you know, sugar on bread and butter. I became addicted to sugar because it changed the way I felt.
And as the years passed, Clapton would do more and more to change the way he felt.
In the later stages, what was a day like for you?
I would wake up and look out the window, and I didn't know whether it was morning or late afternoon, and if it was dark, whether it was night, evening, or early, you know, I didn't know in the end. And sometimes I didn't even know where I was. Even though I woke up at home, I wouldn't know where I was.
How long would a bottle of vodka last?
Half a day.
Half a day.
Yeah.
You're drinking a couple bottles a day?
2 bottles a day. And then sometimes, you know, I would go out, or if someone managed to get me into a social situation, I'd drink on top of that.
Were you ever suicidal?
Yes, frequently. So, you know, almost on a nightly basis.
By the early 1970s, Clapton decided to leave Cream and perform on his own. He had also fallen in love with Pattie Boyd, the wife of his good friend, the Beatle, George Harrison. It was Boyd who decided to leave Harrison and marry Clapton, and it was for her that Clapton wrote one of his biggest hits, Layla.
What do you do when you get lonely? Someone's waiting by your side. You've been running hard and much too long. It was just your foolish pride.
Pattie Boyd was described as the great love of your life. True?
I don't know, Ed. I don't know, because I don't know if I was capable of knowing what love was then. I was obsessed with this woman. So that's why I said, I don't know if I loved her. Because as a practicing drunk, which I was then, I just wanted something very badly.
What brought an end to it?
I think recovery for me, stopping drinking and realizing that I couldn't live the old life. In fact, you know, when I first stopped drinking, I kind of experienced a long period of impotency, which was pretty scary. And, you know, all it was that I hadn't performed any kind of sex act with a woman sober in my life. Never. It had never happened without some kind of stimulant. So you take that away, and it just didn't work.
Was there a low point, a point where you said, okay, that's it, there won't be a next drink?
Yeah.
Tell me what that was.
I was an avid fisherman, and that was one area where I felt I had some expertise and still harbored a little bit of self-respect. And I remember going fishing one morning, and on the other side of the river there were 2 fishermen who were acknowledged experts. And at some point I lost my balance, and I fell over and I broke one of the rods in half. And something in me just died. And I drove home, and I picked up the phone, and I called someone, and I said, I've had enough. And that was it. And I thought, what have I done? What the hell have I done? I've let the cat out of the bag. Because for years up until then, I had said, I'm fine.
So Clapton went into treatment, but was soon drinking again. It was during the relapse that he had an affair with Italian actress Laurie Del Santo. She would become the mother of Clapton's only son, Connor.
And when he was born, I was drinking. And he was really the chief reason that I went back to treatment, because I really did love this boy. And I thought, I know he's like a little baby, but he can see me and he can see what I'm doing, and I'm tired of this.
So it was for Connor that Clapton finally quit for good and vowed to be the kind of father he never had. But that was not to be. In December of '91, Clapton was in New York to visit Connor, who was living in the city with his mother. The phone rang in his hotel room.
And his mother was hysterical. She was hardly able to make sense. But she said he was dead.
He had accidentally fallen 55 floors from the window of his mother's apartment.
And I remember putting the phone down and calmly walking from my hotel to that place as if nothing had happened. And I walked past the street, and this is a terrible thing of shame for me, which I'll never, ever, perhaps, recover from. And seeing a crowd of people and a paramedic van, and knowing that he was there, and walking by. And I'll punish myself forever about why didn't I run? Why didn't I go to see him? And the truth is, I couldn't. I was so frightened. And that's tough.
Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven?
Tears in Heaven came out of that.
Yeah.
Was it a difficult song to write?
No. No, because I've always quite enjoyed going into that place of emotion with writing. It's a very, very, it's like a purging experience.
Tears in Heaven and the CD Unplugged would win Clapton 6 Grammy Awards in 1993.
You know, the greatest thing that I have is being awake for my life and being able to participate and having no more dark secrets inside which damage me. And that I've got through staying sober.
Clapton has been sober for almost 13 years now and today spends much of his time in the Caribbean on the island of Antigua, where he's just finished building a drug and alcohol treatment center called Crossroads.
It almost looks like a hotel.
It's the idea. Lull everyone into a full sense of security.
To date, Clapton has spent almost $7 million on the project, which opened its doors to paying customers a year ago, last October.
You built all of this from scratch, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing here.
There was nothing here.
And Clapton's investment in the center is more than financial. Crossroads has personal importance to him, he says, because of how far he's come.
You've survived a complicated childhood, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, the loss of your son. How have you come through all of this and managed to remain sane and remain whole?
I think the process of letting it go, you know, of acknowledging that I'm not the master. And it ain't about what I want. It's about what I can give.
Now he wants to give people who can't afford to pay for a stay at the Crossroads a chance to use the rehab center. A third of the beds will be set aside for them, and to pay for their care, he put on a benefit concert this summer at Madison Square Garden.
How well I know him when I don't keep my father's arms.
And he raised over $5 million by auctioning off more than 100 of his guitars.
At $450,000. Anyone else? It is charity, all the way. At $450,000 sold.
In 1974, someone asked you what you'd like to be doing 10 years from now, and you said, I'd like to be alive.
Yeah, still true. Still true. I'd like to be sober too, because that's the, you know, one isn't really possible without the other.
60年代のエリック・クラプトンといったらクールの極致で僕なんかにとってもう